Well, Andrew, it's another week of After the Sermon podcast. Thank you for joining. I'm Pastor Tez Andrews of Connect Church here in Decatur, Georgia, in the Atlanta area. This is Andrew Stripling, the leader of our media team, but also one of the leaders of our youth ministry and young adults. And we've been in a season of encouragement at Connect Church. So after the sermon, we are digging into encouragement. And we know when we go through hard times in life, they have purpose. And that purpose is to grow us. That purpose is to make us stronger. And I love that even in the midst of hard times, we're still responsible to give thanks. And when you give thanks, what you'll notice is that you'll wind up being encouraged because you realize that God is still good, even in the midst of whatever we're going through. But in today's podcast, in this Philippians study, he says, really, if you want encouragement, it requires selflessness and really a mindset to serve others. What are your thoughts, Andrew, in regards to selflessness and the mindset to serve others?
Selflessness is actually something I think about a lot, especially as a Christian, because it's just something that Jesus always represented in everything that he did. When he was with his disciples, he just always showed that he was there to serve them. You can think about the times where he was, washing their feet, or times where everybody was freaking out in the waters and it was a big storm going by, and Jesus, even though they woke him up, he calmed the storm for them. Jesus was always doing something for other people. And, I just wonder, for you, what is it like, trying to, live Christ-like by serving others? Do you think that there are some limits you have to have, or is it just, have the heart of service?
Yeah, well, one thing about serving others is it truly takes your mind off of self and it puts it on others. As a church, every month we're at Safe House, and Safe House is, they don't like you using the phrase soup kitchen anymore because it's kind of degrading if somebody's getting at a soup kitchen. But nevertheless, that's kind of the mindset of Safe House. And when we go there, it's in the middle of downtown Atlanta, and around 5:30, you start seeing people come from under bridges, come from the corners and alleyways. Most of them are in very tattered old clothes. You also have a working class that may have just gotten off of work, and they're the working poor that come to the Safe House for dinner. Just to save money. Sometimes you have families that come in, but for the most part, it's our unhoused population and some of the most neglected neighborhoods and communities within Atlanta, all to get a meal. And the first Monday of every month, we are there serving food, we are there serving clothes, and even like this past Monday, we did a hot chocolate station, and we worship, we give a word of encouragement. But the one thing I know is every person that I bring to Safe House to go and serve others, they leave encouraged. And the reason why they leave encouraged is because they're no longer looking at self, they're looking at somebody else. And to me, that's what the enemy wants us to do. He wants us to say, woe is me. I don't like my job. I don't like my spouse. I don't like my children. I don't like my situation. Because he knows if you begin looking at self, it's going to discourage you. But when you get to the place where you're serving others and you see how blessed you are, how much of a privileged position that you have, it lifts you up. And it also makes you want to do more. We partner with schools also. And this past Monday, we brought Coach Starr, the head coach of Lakeside's football team. And man, at the end, when we had just got through serving 200 homeless and unhoused, he was just like, Pastor Tez, we got to figure out how to do more. The next time I'm going to do a clothing drive. The next time I'm going to make sure the whole school is engaged so that we truly love on our community. He got it. No matter what he was going through, no matter what anyone was going through, they began saying, it's not that bad. Why? Because they stopped looking at self and started looking at serving others. And that's why it's so important to make sure that's a part of your heart and mindset.
Yeah, and I also think like when you're just looking at yourself, it's a breeding ground for jealousy. And I like how it was described in this one book I read. Jealousy is pretty much saying what other people have is good, or what I do not have is good, and what I do have as bad.
Yeah.
And when you just get in that mindset of thinking about yourself and you're just like, man, I'm so jealous of what this other person has. Now you're like, life is terrible, woe is me, just like you said.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at myself, I'm inward, and I'm like, what I have isn't good enough. I always need more. I need what this person has. And it's taking away the responsibility on yourself, because now you're just looking at your circumstances and you're not thinking about, well, am I part of the problem? Or if I'm not, why can't I be grateful for what God has given me now?
Yeah, I think that selfishness, and I want to make a pretty bold statement. I think selfishness, pride, jealousy are some of the most demonic and satanic things in all of Scripture. And the reason why I say that is because the first sin that we know of is Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 37, where Lucifer, who was God's anointed cherub, began looking at himself. And he said, I will sit on the Mount of Assembly. I will have the angels of God bowing before me. I will sit on your throne. I will have you worshiping me. And, one thing you don't play with God's glory. Jesus said he saw Satan kicked out of heaven like a lightning bolt because of jealousy and self-indulgence. And, I hate to say it, but I believe it's true. This is cursing America right now. This whole political campaign, which was about America first. Forget about others. It's about us. So the first thing they do is turn off U.S. aid, which we know has saved millions of lives over the history of U.S. aid. And it cost us hardly nothing. It really helped our farmers with sending leftover food to countries that are third world and impoverished. And for an America First agenda, let's keep this for ourselves. And in a matter of moments, beginning of the year, that whole entity being shut down. When it comes to the rhetoric that's in our world right now, of hey, this neighborhood, these are illegals and they're taking your jobs and we need to get them out of the country. No place of just saying, let's think about the community and why they're here. Are they running from a crisis situation? Is this something that we need to do to help? And unfortunately, you have Christians who have been bamboozled into having this self-indulged mentality. And I have no problem looking into that camera and saying it's demonic and satanic and not of God. We should be in a place where we're always thinking about others. When you are thinking about others, what you're going to see is you're going to be encouraged. And not only that, God's going to bless you when you think about the least of these in society. I have a 6-year-old, Jeremiah, and he's gotten a lot better. But when he was 2 years old, when he was angry because he wanted something, it was mine. I mean, he was at his angriest when he was selfish, saying, these are my toys. This is my food. This is my stuff. You're not happy if you're self-indulged. The happiest people are the ones that are freely helping and loving others. People that, and that's why the rhetoric is so angry. Your job is being stolen because of DEI. These immigrants are taking your stuff and we need to close this down. It's an angry time because it's all about me. And what you're going to see is, you're going to see this just depressed attitude come across because America and our society is self-indulged. And I'm going to tell you personally, as a pastor, it grieves my heart because it's the closest thing to Satanism and demonic influence and possession that you have in all of the scriptures. Godly people think about others.
I agree that every Christian should be giving towards others, and I think I kind of have a different view. So I want your perspective on
Sure.
this. But there was a homeless guy that I was helping, and every time I would help him out, and he asked for maybe $5, $10, whatever, right? And I was like, we're called to give to others and to extend out a helping hand in need. And I remember giving him money a couple times. But over time, I saw that as I gave, you just wanted more
Sure.
and more and more things. And so that's when it got me on this journey of creating boundaries, where it's like, I want to help you, but clearly there has to be some limit here, so that at least to protect myself from being taken advantage of. And so while I believe we're called to give, we're called to not look towards ourselves but to others, it does seem like there might be some boundary there where you don't give, or there's some situations where it makes sense not to give.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly another side that I believe people do make excuses of when they say, well, I am feeding someone's habit, or I need to be teaching others how to fish, not just giving them fish. That is absolutely true. But what I really see is when people set up boundaries like that to say, I'm not going to give to the poor, the prisoner, or the sick, they don't replace that with honesty. You see, when I'm meeting somebody and they've come to me regularly about, hey, I need help with rent. Well, why don't people tell them the truth? In the sense that they're saying, okay, in June 20th, I gave you this. July the 30th, I gave you this. August 10th, I gave you this. We are now 4 months in a row where I'm helping you. This is not a problem where you're in need. This is a problem where you have a stewardship problem. Let me help pull you out of poverty. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to enroll here. I need you, if it's a drug problem, you need to go to rehab. And if it's a place where you need to get clean, you need to get a license, you need to get to a place where you're fully delivered, now be willing to surrender to a process so that I can pull you out of poverty. If they truly want to be pulled out of poverty, they're going to follow you. But if they're not going to ask you again. Because the next time they come to you, they know, ooh, I ignored them the first time. I can't ask them again for $5 and $3. I mean, we've been in the help business as with food pantries, benevolence, with all sorts of things for a decade. We know how to hold people accountable. When somebody comes to us, by all means, extend grace to them. But if they keep getting in the cycle where they show evidence of generational poverty, okay, I want to pull you out of poverty, meet with me so that I can truly help you get delivered. And if they don't want it, they'll go away. But what we typically do is we just cut them off and don't give them the truth, the explanation. And that's not helping them. What helps is if you tell them the truth and you really guide them to a place. And a lot of times we don't want to do the dirty work of serving people in that way. Because let's face it, that's hard. That means, okay, if they're going to need to get their license, they're going to have to get in your car, take them to a place, sign them up with a Safe House or Atlanta Mission to help them get in a program, call them every once in a while to hold them accountable and let them know you continue to pray for them. We don't want that. And what we'll typically say is instead of me getting into all that, let me just give you $5. I had a man tell me one day, he was a deacon in a church I used to serve at, and we just did an analysis of their church to just really see why their church was kind of flat. It just wasn't growing. And one of the gaps that was in the church was serving others. But nevertheless, their giving was really good. Their service was low, but their giving was really good. And one of the deacons raised their hand. He said, Pastor says, it's easier to write a check than to get involved.
Yeah.
Some people they don't want to go through the grind of telling people the truth and leading people to deliverance. That's dirty work. They'd rather give $1 and not have anything to do with them. So to me, the answer to that question is have you told that person the truth? Have you shared the gospel with them? Have you challenged them to be delivered instead of being in the vicious cycle? And if you haven't, what have you truly done but give them $1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. That is a good point.
And I don't mean to be brash, but I mean, when you've been in this game for a while, man, I real recognize real. And I don't have any problem telling folks the truth when it comes to them saying, well, this is the reason why I don't give. I feel like he's going to ask me again. Well, have you shared Jesus with him? Because we know Jesus will deliver him from poverty. Well, no, I haven't shared Christ with him. Well, have you said, hey, it looks like you're on drugs. I'll help you get to rehab. No, I didn't want to get into all of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like, well, what did you do? I gave him a couple of dollars. Well, it sounds like he needs a lot more than that. And if you're not willing to do that, then okay, just keep giving him a couple of dollars.
Yeah, that's true. So that is some things that I could do definitely in future, or if I do see him again, because it does come frequently. I'll be able to at least give him reason for.
And what you're gonna see is when you start really challenging people in areas they don't want to be challenged in, they'll run from you the next time. They won't want to hear you say. I got plenty of folks that walk in the other direction when the bald-headed prophet comes into their presence, because they know when you reach that point, well, I see you've manipulated me into money and getting what I want. I'm gonna look you dead in the eye and I'm gonna tell you the truth, to be like, look, dude, you're on drugs, you're addicted, you got a stronghold, and God needs to deliver you. And I'm not giving you money, I want to help you get delivered. And what they'll typically say is, I ain't ready for all that yet. Well, all right, man, don't ask me for no money then, till you're ready for deliverance, Hey, tough journey, man, tough journey. This ministry's not an easy deal, that's for sure. But I tell you what, the premise is still the same. When you love your neighbor, it'll encourage you. It'll encourage you. And in fact, I believe loving your neighbor is truly connected to your walk as a follower of Jesus. If someone has good doctrine, meaning they believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, but they don't serve others and they don't love their neighbor, are they really a believer? What do you think?
Well, I think that we're called to follow Jesus. So if Jesus stood for giving and serving others, if Jesus, and this is not actually an if anymore,
sure,
Jesus did give his life for our sins.
Yes.
We are called to do these things. And if we're not doing that, then there is something that we have to check with our heart. And it's just super important for us to realize that this world is going to end, and we can't put our we can't put our treasure here on earth, but in heaven. And so I guess, can someone truly be a follower of Jesus without following Jesus? Well, I guess not.
Yeah. And I think, the story of the Good Samaritan, which is Luke chapter 9, a lot of times we forget where that story came from. The lawyer asked, who is my neighbor? And Jesus gives this great story that everybody knows. A certain man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. He got robbed, he got beat up, they stripped him, and they left him half dead. The priest walks by, and he passes by the man that was beaten. The priest's assistant, the Levite, walks by, and he passes by. But then this Samaritan, this one who was hated by the Jews, reaches out to the man, bandages up his wounds, put him on his own donkey, takes him to an inn, pays the innkeeper, and says, take care of him until he is made well. Then Jesus asked the lawyer, now who was the neighbor? Mm-hmm. and of course, the lawyer says, the one who helped the man. So a lot of times we look at that story and we just say, okay, so it's a story about making sure you help others. But I take that story a little bit deeper. Yes, the lawyer asked the question, who was my neighbor? But the first question in that story is, what does it take to get to heaven? And then the lawyer, the lawyer says, hey, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus says, yes, if you could do that, that's good. And then he says, who is your neighbor? Mm-hmm. So technically, that story was about what does it take to get to heaven. You can't disconnect that really a person that's going to heaven loves his neighbor. A person that's going to heaven serves others that may be dying on the side of the road. And if you're truly going to heaven, you can't pass by that person who is in need and needs service. And I think sometimes we take that story as just, hey, yeah, he's encouraging us to help others. No, he's really telling you to look in the mirror. Are you really a believer if you pass by people that are hurting and dying on the side of the road? And to me, that changes things. Mm-hmm. That makes it to where this whole Christian nationalism deal of America first and get rid of the immigrants and everything that's about me, you begin questioning, is that even what a Christian is? No, it's not. Because if you are not loving the Somalian, if you're not loving the immigrant, if you're not loving the homeless, the diverse person, the woman, God says, maybe you're not even a believer. Maybe you're not even going to heaven.
You know, that does remind me of what Jesus says about, you know, when you're going up to Jesus in heaven, and he says, depart from me, for I never knew you. Mm-hmm. But he also says, you worker of iniquity.
Yeah.
So it's either you're doing something that is evil, or it is, you're also not doing something that you should have been doing, which is also evil.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is saying, you've said in my name that you are a follower of Jesus, but you didn't show it in any of your actions. You didn't show the fruit.
Yes.
And if you think about John 15, where Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches.
Yes.
Right? Any branch that does not bear fruit is thrown into the fire and burned. Yeah. That's what he says.
Yes.
So if you're not bearing that fruit, if you're not showing that you are actually a follower of Jesus, then your faith is pretty much void. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's a whole side of Christianity that got good doctrine, but don't have a good record at loving others. Don't have a good record at serving others. And that's why I think it's really infused discouragement. I mean, you know, there's some people that's got everything and are not happy, you know. Sometimes I think about my time in Kenya and third world countries. And I remember this lady, her name was Leah. And she lived in a 10 by 10 foot hut, no bigger than this room. And she had a whole lot more joy than I see people that live in 10,000 square foot homes. And no heat, no electricity, dirt floor, a tent or a hut divided into 2 rooms, and still had the love and joy of the Lord. As a matter of fact, children within the village were singing this song when Kyle and I came up to this village, that Jesus makes me happy.
Yeah.
Jesus makes me happy. And it just lets you know the reason why Americans can be at a place, and not just Americans, but just the whole people that have put faith and confidence in self, the things of this world, you're going to live a pretty depressing, unfulfilled life.
Yeah.
Because real joy is in Christ.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll miss that joy when you focus too much on self, and you should be focused on serving others.
Yeah.
And that's why that whole Philippians 2 passage, Philippians chapter 2, 1 through 5, great passage for you to read, because he says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus.
Yeah.
And what did Christ do? He gave himself for the sake of others.
Yeah.
And if you want that encouragement, then it can't just be about me. If it is, you're going to have a very disappointing, unfulfilled life.